So welcome to Znyr platform. In today's session, we are going to create a dynamic quiz where in this I have already created a set of questions. So I'm just clicking the next button and choosing the option. If I'm not choosing and going for the next, it shows that we have to make selection. I'm just making that we have to select some option. Without selection, it will not lead to the next question. So I'm just choosing the question. The answer. So yes, next clicking. Yes. So if I want to go for the previous question, I can go for the previous question. Once it is done, it is showing that out of 5 questions I got for the 5 questions of right. So for this, we are going to write under the Znyr platform of HTML and CSS and JavaScript, and of course we have already created the questions, and where in the JavaScript it have a functions to check the question with the correct answer, and without choosing any option in the sense, it will not lead to the next question. So these are some basic concepts which we want to keep in mind while creating the JavaScript. Let's see how it works on the Znyr platform. So on the HTML part, I need to create a title whereof dynamic quiz project, and I'm going to link the CSS sheet as well as the scripting part of JS. So let me start from the head. I'm going to add the title, where I'm adding the title as dynamic quiz project. So once it is done, I have made the link. So where I have to link the script basis, that is CSS part, link, and my type, which is nothing but, which we already know, it is in the text or CSS format. So it should relevant to my style sheet, and it should give a reference to style sheet. So it should refer to my style.css. Okay, so now I'm going to use yes. So this is over. So next I am going to add one more link under the, it should relevant to my style sheet. Where my type is nothing but text or CSS type, and I'm going to download from the font size of Google font for family and for the Open Sans. So I have already copied the link. I'm just going to paste over here. So I have pasted over here. Next I'm going to do my and next I'm going to do for my body part. Under the body part, I'm going to use division. So under the division part, I'm just making the ID, which is of container. So next I'm going to add under the division part of, which is title. Okay, so on the heading 1 part, I'm going to add learning JS properly. This is for my reference. I'm just making project and it is dynamic. So now I have created the heading. So you can see on your right hand side where it has been showing the heading. So next the division part is over. Again I need a break. So I'm using the statement of the tag as BR. So under the BR again I'm making a division ID which is of quiz, and I'm closing this division part. Again I'm going to create under the class where my first part could be the button and my ID could be the next. Since you can just recollect with the sample basis, where when I'm clicking this radio button, it's showing the next. For this I'm just creating the HTML part in this line. So next I'm closing this one and I'm making the reference as ahref, which is equivalent to ash, and which is nothing but next, and I'm closing this line and closing this, closing this division. Similarly I'm processing for the class for button of previous and start by repeating this same thing. So I have done for previous and the start button. So next I need to link with the script basis. For this I'm using the script under my type, which I'm making as it is in the form of text or in the JavaScript, and I need the source code. I'm already done the source code, which is from the Ajax, where Ajax it is nothing but it is a predefined of a query basis, which I have taken from the Google. This is similar to your Google font, where we have taken the font size from the Google. No, similarly, I'm just copying the Ajax from the Google basis. So I have copied the link and pasted over on my scripting part, that is on my HTML part. So next on the continuation I have to use which is of script type, which is nothing but my text or JavaScript, and my source could be, which is nothing but questions dot, which is in the form of JSON. JSON it is nothing but it act like a query basis where it have an already predefined, or we can create the question from this part. So next I'm closing this script one. So you can notice on your right hand side whatever the HTML part is placing or the relevant is displaying. Yes. So my scripting for JSON is over. Next I have to create for the script for which is type is text and it is a JavaScript, and my source is nothing but jsquiz.js, and I'm closing this part. Yes. So I have to create a quiz part for JS for under the name of JS quiz. Yes. So my division is also over. So I have created my HTML part. Under the HTML part I have created this next, previous and start over, and I have created a link to the script type. So I'm just going to create the JavaScript, which is the file name as JS quiz, and I'm closing this. Okay, so I'm just moving for my styling part, that is for the CSS. So CSS, maybe under the body I'm just going to add, we can remove this. So under the body I'm going to add the font family of Open Sans. I'm just closing this tag. Next, for the heading 1 I'm going to use text align, which is of center, and for my title I'm making their text decoration. I'm just adding their property to be underline. So next, for the quiz I'm making the text indent to be 10 pixel and display to be none. So again I'm going to create for the button, where for my each button I'm making their border to be 4 pixel and it is in solid, and their border radius is 5 pixel. I'm making as 5 pixel. Next I'm making their width to be 40 pixel and their padding left could be 5 pixel and padding right could be 5 pixel. I'm making their position to be relative, so it can be changed. So I need to change the name position. You can see their difference on your right hand side. So whatever I'm changing, it is reflecting. I'm making their flow to be right, and I require some background color, where I'm going to add with the color of ash DC DC DC. Okay, so you can change any color. I'm choosing this one. Next I'm making their color to be black and there I'm fixing the margin to be 0 2 pixel 0 2 pixel. Next, for the button dot active, so to make that button active, for this also I'm making the CSS part background color, where I'm fixing as ash f8 f8 ff. Yes, so maybe it could falls like a blue color. Next, I'm making their color to be which is of, maybe I'm using 525252. Yes. So again I'm moving for the button. For this button I'm making their position to be relative, and their float to be right, and button A, where I'm fixing as their text decoration will be none, and making their color to be black. So similarly I'm processing for U1 and for the previous and start. So once again I just want to repeat on the container. We have created the container width of 50% and margin padding, and even for the U1 of list style which is none, padding to be 0, and I have created for the previous display is none and restart to be the none, and I have set their width to be as 90 pixel. So next, since we need to process a question, I mean the function part is need to be done on the JavaScript, and we need to insert the question. For this I'm just moving for my JS part. Maybe you can see the output over here. It is uploading. So while uploading we can just move on with the JavaScript and we can type the function. Yes. So you can able to see the difference. Whatever the coding part is, I mean the CSS part is done, it is displaying on your screen, but still it doesn't move for the question. It is because of the JavaScript. Since the JavaScript part is incomplete, it is not showing any questions. So I'm starting with the function. So I'm going to initially do under the first part as going to insert some questions. Almost I plan to insert of 5 questions along with their choice along with the answer. So this is my first part will I'm going to done on the function basis. Next, I'm going to declare a variable of one is tracking the question number, and it should be contain the choices. For each question it should have a choices. And next I'm going to display the initial question where it should show my next. So once the first question is done, it should should have a show to my next button. Next, I need to handle for I need to write a scripting function for this next button. Okay, so if it is required, it may be move on to the previous, or else it want to fit with my next question. So this is my first level of part. So I'm going to declare a function. I'm going to declare a variable, which is variable questions. So already I have copied a set of questions which is on the multiple choices. So I have done the question basis where I have created as one is question and second is choice, and I have created the correct answer. So I have created a simple quiz. Maybe it is your choice. You can create up to your basis. So my first question is what is 2 into 5, and the second question is 3 into 6. I have chosen the relative relevant correct answer also. So next I'm going to create one more variable, which is of variable question counter. So where my it should track my question number. Initially I'm setting as 0. Next, the variable selection. So they have to choose the choices, no? So for this I'm making as it's an empty, and it since it consists of 4 choices, I'm mentioning in the array format. Next, I'm going to create one more variable, which is a quiz, where it should get the value of quiz. For this I'm using the $sign. Yes. So next it should display the initial question. So once the first question is set up, it should show my next question. For this I need to write as display next, and we need to handle for the next button. So for this I'm going to write the scripting as dollar. Since dollar it is nothing but where it accept for the next value, ash next on click comma function, which is of e. So I'm just declaring since I don't want to declare as an empty parameter, I'm using as e dot prevent default. So next I need to suspend the listener for fading animation. So to use a fading animation, I am using with the if else statement. So where I'm making as if quiz dot is making is checking the condition, animated it should be written false. Next I need to choose, I'm using this as choose. So next, if the user doesn't select anything in this sense, it should not move for the next question. So for this I'm using again the if statement, if is nan and the selection where it should move with my question counter, whatever the question is there. If I'm not choosing any option of the third question in this sense, it will not lead to my next question. So that is what I'm setting here as question counter, and it should make an alert to the window that we need to select some option. Please make a selection. So else on the second part, so if else on the second part, I'm going to make as the question should be move on with the next counter. It should move on for the fourth or fifth question. For this I'm going to use as plus plus operator, and it should display my next question. So next, if the user want to handle for the previous question, or if the user want to move for the previous, for this we need to write the scripting part, which is nothing but dollar, and it should lead to previous, which is on, and it should be on the clicking basis. Click function I'm making as e parameter, and it should lead to e dot prevent default. So again I'm going to use the same thing, which is nothing but same thing I'm going to repeat. So that I'm just copying. And it making as written false. Next the same thing, that is they have to choose. So under the choose I'm making the question counter to be minus. Since for the previous they have to, I'm just using as minus operator, and it should display next. So next, similarly I have already created for my next question and for the previous question. Next, for the start over I need to write. For this I'm just copying the same thing. Where I'm changing as here to be start, which is for the start over. On the click everything is same, and it should be animated, it false, and it should be move for the minus minus. Since this is doesn't require, I'm just deleting this part. Yes, display next. Start is done. Start function is animated, return false. Where it should not move for the next part, that is choose part is doesn't required, and where it should not lead to my next counter. So for this I'm making as a 0, and there let be okay. So let be their selection could be selection will be empty, and their display next, and it should move on with start, and it should hide. The start button should be hide. So next I'm going to animate the button on the hoover. For this I'm going to use, since the mouse I'm going to process, no, so maybe for this I'm going to write the classes, I'm going to write the function where it is nothing but dollar dot button, and it is making as a mouse center, and the function is nothing but where it need to add the class I'm making as an act2. So when the mouse is leaves, in the sense this particular function will also want to be in active. So next I'm going to create and return the division that contain the question and answer selections. For this I'm going to create one more function which is nothing but create question element, where I'm going declaring a variable of q element. So under the q element I'm making their get the element as for this I'm using the dollar sign. Since I have created the question, it need to get the question from my function. For this purpose only I'm using this function. So yes, I'm using this part, and next is my header part. It should move on with my second question. For this only it is leading as index plus 1. So index plus 1, it is nothing but it adds to my next question. So next part is variable question, where it should append it. Appended it is nothing but joining. So next we have created the radio button, where in the radio button it is nothing but to process for the various option, to enable this variable option, the button option, I have used this function. So next I'm going to return with the q element. So far we have created the question that contains the answer selection. Still we need to process a list of the answer choices as a radio input. So for this I'm going to create one more function, which is function create radios, and I'm using their index parameter as an index, and making their variable as radio list. Since to get their list I'm using the dollar sign, and it should be in an unorder. So for this I'm using as ul, and making their variable to be in the item. And again I'm going to create one more input, which is empty. Next I'm going to use the for condition for the radio list, where it should choose a radio, choose a button, as well as it should display the, on the final basis it should display the answers to how many answers we have got correct, that it should want to list out. So next, for the for condition, I have declared the initialization to be 0, and I'm checking the condition it should less than my question of index choices, and I'm using the increment value of I++. After using this, I have declared an item where it is in the format of unordered list, and I'm using the input where my input type is radio. I'm naming as this their answer and making their value to be separated. So next I'm making their input where it is adding their index along with a question with the choices. To add this, I'm using the inbuilt function as an appendant where it should add with my item, and next it should also add my item with the radio choices. Radio choices it means that the choices for the question that is also need to be appended. So after using this, it should return my radio list. So next I want to make a user selection and push the value to be an array. For this, I'm declaring a function to be the choose, and they have to select the questions of counter, which is nothing but their name. It should give the question, answer, as well as it need to be check. So my next process is nothing but requested element. So whatever the element is required, it should display that. For this, again I'm using the function as a display next, and I'm going to use a function as fade out where it will fade out the questions and it move on for the next one. So initially I'm checking with if question counter is less than the question length, then it moves for the my next question. For example, I have created the 5 question. Now if I'm writing for the first question, in this sense it will check whether my first question is less than fifth question. Then it will create my question element and it will append it and it move with my next question. If I'm on the 5th question, in this sense it will check over here and it will does not lead to my next question. Since this particular condition is false, it will not move on with my next question. So next we are going to control for the display of previous button. For previous button, it is nothing but when I'm making their condition is equivalent to 1, where previous button need to be show, or else it should not show. For this I'm using this condition to be false, and I'm making their previous to be hide and the next button to be show. Similarly, I'm going to create for their score element. After attending the question and the system need to display the correct answer. For this, I'm declaring a variable of a score element where it should display the score and it should be appendant of correct questions, a correct question with a number of question. So I'm just making the function as display score and making the variable as a score where it should print the questions and the number of correct. For initially the number of correct will be 0, and making their condition for when variable is equivalent to 0, it should check my selection length and the value should be increased. So I'm going to make the score to be appended that you got plus number of correct questions out of number of the question length. So it should return my score. So we can try on the web browser. So almost my styling and HTML and JavaScript part is over. We can try on the web development. So this is how the output for this program which we have created. So maybe you can choose the choices, and since it is on the first question, it will lead to the next, and if you want to start over, you can start over. It will be resumed to your first question. So hope this dynamic quiz is helpful in real-time basis, and we have created this dynamic quiz by using the JavaScript concept. Thank you.